look who it is. We're tuning in together.
Thank you for being with us. Feel home already because we will have some of the most transparent conversations.
Hey, we know that deep conversations are not always comfortable, but guess what? We have come across a safe place where we will be 100% open.
We will touch every angle of that unique thought, question, and untold story that can automatically impact the season and journey you are walking. Remember, we are not doing life alone. Now it is time to step aside to be who you are and say what you feel.
Make sure to stop by every week. This is End Goals Podcast with
Santi and
Steph.
And welcome to the house, Brandon Martinez. We are so honored to have you with us. Finally, it was about time. We've been following you for years. I think you just met us today for your first time ever. So thank you for being with us.
An amazing guy so far.
And your wife, Nicole, too.
So far.
Your wife, Nicole, too. Sadly, she's not here. We hope she feels so much better. But Nicole, I know you might watch this. I admire you so much, and I hope I can meet you someday, sometime soon. You both are amazing.
Thank you, Brandon. For real.
And your little daughter is so beautiful, too.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be here. We've talked about it for a little bit now, so I'm excited that it's finally here just to talk about Christ. And my wife says hello to everyone listening, including you, Santi and Stephanie. I hope that we do part 2. And
thank you. Yes, definitely. Hey. We already passed the test. All right.
Shout out to the PV show.
PV show. Hey. Yes, Brandon.
After if you're watching or listening to this, after you finish this, go ahead and take a look at the PV show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also Amazon.
Amazing.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Is that right?
Thank you.
And then do you have a YouTube as well?
It's in the works.
It's in the works.
It's
okay.
In the works.
Yeah, a lot
of works.
All right.
Cool.
Well,
right.
Brandon Martinez, we call you Pastor Brandon, and I'm assuming a lot of people know you by Pastor Brandon, right? Or am I wrong? That's why it's PB?
You usually go by PB.
PB? Okay, PB. Yeah. You're too cool. Okay. PB. I'm joking. Okay, PB. We know that you're a pastor, you preach, and then you're also a police officer, you're a husband, and you're a dad. So, wow, it's like, what?
What a story.
So much. Yeah. What a story. We can't wait for that. Dad.
It just means that I'm tired a lot. That's all that means.
No, actually, I've been, we've been seeing your pictures. You are super ripped. You gotta teach me how to.
I tell him he looks amazing the way he is.
I'm trying.
That's right.
Honesty, yeah.
Wonderfully made. No, that's Planet Fitness right there. Planet Fitness.
No, I tell Santi, babe, you look amazing the way you are. But he says he wants to be ripped, so I'm gonna support him.
All right, moving on.
Moving on. I don't want to talk about this.
Okay, PV, can you tell us a little bit about yourself for those people that probably don't know you? Just, introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, a little bit about what you do. And if, of course, your podcast. I mean, your podcast is amazing. So.
For sure. So my full name is Brandon Martinez. I am a pastor here in Florida. I love Florida. I was born and raised in New York, so it's nice to have the sun over here on this side. Wow. I am married to a beautiful blue-headed, because she just dyed her hair blue, wife named Nicole Martinez. And we just had a 1-year-old, and her name is Adela Rose. And when I say just had, we didn't have her now, but it was her birthday on the 24th. I am a police officer, and thank you. And on the 24th was actually my 4-year anniversary being active duty with the police force. Wow. And that's super exciting. I love my job. As we talked a little bit before this podcast, it's definitely a ministry in my eyes. And nothing, I'm a pretty simple guy. I love Jesus. I go by one quote that I read in a book called Love Does by Bob Goff. It's my favorite quote. And he says, love God, love people, and do stuff. So it's pretty simple. I like movies. I love macaroni.
Macaroni
and cheese. Yeah. I'm a picky eater. And what else? That's about it.
Okay. In favorite music? genre?
Favorite music, actually old music, like Frank Sinatra, Etta James.
Oh, jazz.
Yeah, if it's not like Maverick City and all that stuff, it's definitely some old music.
Okay,
Sweet.
Maverick City too. So
yeah,
holy music.
That's right.
Okay, do you want to say anything?
No, actually, let's jump in.
Let's jump in. Okay, so the reason why we have Brandon and, you know, of course Nicole's not here, but we chose them because they're huge social media influencers. I don't think they probably realize it as much, but you guys impact many people around you, many young adults, and I'm sure adults too as well. So as we get into the fact that you guys are social media influencers, we wanted to touch point on how important a social media appearance is, and especially when you're walking your journey with God. And for example, you're a pastor. I know Nicole is a worshiper. And as we see social media appearance, we tend to have two sides of it. It can be negative and it can be positive as well. And how we use it matters a lot. So Santi and I were talking about how sometimes it can seem like this perfect, you know, picture. And we start comparing ourselves. We start saying, why can't we be like them? Or why did God give them their marriage already, their daughter? And why am I still standing here? So when we talk about social media appearance, Brandon, how did you start your journey, or how did your influence start and you started growing within social media? Was this because you started preaching on social media, or can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I've always loved like graphic design, anything media oriented. That's why we do the podcast, YouTube, all of that has always been a passion of mine. And I think it's important to use your passion to point to Christ. So at a younger age, I started preaching around 13 and 15. And as I started growing older, I would utilize what Instagram just now is. I mean, before it was a lot different, and just utilizing it to do what I do, which is just preach. That's what I love to do. That's what I feel born to do. And I just started posting and sharing, and things like Vine would come up. I don't know if you remember Vine.
Yeah,
it was like, to make
I don't know why they
videos.
I don't know why did they cancel it?
I have no idea. I just remember MySpace.
No ideas. Yeah, MySpace. Remember that? Yeah. I mean, Vine was like here for 5 minutes, but I used to preach on that, and it would only give you like 6 seconds. So I had to be like, but just utilizing as much as I can. And I had fun with it. I just enjoyed it. Then I started working with the youth and young adults. So we'd post events and things like that, and just little by little, God began to open opportunities through social media. And like, as you guys know, it's a powerful tool to share. So when you have something to share, which is, his word, at the end of the day, I believe that if you are speaking his word and it is fertile ground, that something's bound to grow. So it just started to grow, and my love for utilizing it grew. And that's kind of like where we are, is just knowing the importance of it and how to use it. So.
Wow. I had a question for you, because I know, as Steph was saying, there's an outlook. So we wanna present ourselves really well on social media, right? We wanna put the highlights, and as a matter of fact, Instagram has its own little feature called highlights. Yeah. Right. So sometimes we find ourselves thinking, maybe I shouldn't be posting this because it's not gonna create that much engagement, or maybe I shouldn't be posting this because it's not what I want people to think about me. So you being a pastor, I'm trying to project the best of the best. How do you manage this whole thinking, or how do we approach this?
So approaching, you mean like transparency?
Yeah, because we really want to be real with people, especially the people who are following, our followers. So how do we manage this whole, I want to be honest, but at the same time I want to project the best, and you know what I mean?
Well, I think it's understanding what Christ came to do, because his strength is glorified in our weakness. So I feel like people have this facade that perfection attracts, when in reality, transparency does. So I feel like the more transparent you are, whether it's with a post or two, whether you're going live, whether you're, just follow that algorithm of whatever platform you're using, I feel like people can read that transparency. Right. They can read whether someone is genuine or not. Something that this Jamaican lady I used to work with said to me, that just always stuck with me. She said, people don't throw rocks at trees without fruit. So I think a lot of us want this, facade, but in reality, we should be posting transparency, even though if rocks are thrown at us, even though we're persecuted for it. I feel like people understanding that there's real humans going through real things, we can break the facade that following Jesus means that you're living a life of rainbows and sunshine. It just means that you're going to still go through it, but this time you're not going through it alone. You know what I mean? So I just think it's more attractive to be transparent and as normal, honestly, as you can be.
Wow.
Yeah. And do you think this has become an issue? Like, do you believe this has been an issue around people, that it tackles their minds and they start, kind of being confused into, like how I mentioned earlier, I wonder why he has this. I wonder why she has this. Or even like as man and woman, like I want that body. Of course, we all want to be fit, right? But all these things, how do you think we can tackle these issues within having God involved in this, Brandon? How do we go about, when we go on social media, remembering God made us and he gave us our own identity and we should not be identified by that? How do you think you tackle these issues? Or because you guys are influencers, do you guys struggle with this as well? Like comparison? Do you understand my question? Sorry.
Definitely. So I definitely struggle with that. I think that's a normal thing to struggle. I think with, not to quote something nerdy, but Spider-Man, with great responsibility, great power comes great responsibility. And it's the same thing. Social media is such a huge asset and such a huge tool, but behind that comes this responsibility of using that tool correctly. And I feel like the more we're engaged with social media, we can get lost in this false reality or create these unrealistic expectations. And then when we don't meet those expectations, we find ourselves in an unfertile ground in life where we're comparing, where we're feeling jealous, where we're feeling a higher sense of insecurities, or we're looking at other people's lives and saying, man, I really wish I had that. But all we know is just the glory, not their story. We don't know the reality because no one wants to share the reality. So, and on top of that, it becomes an addiction to the point that a lot of us are idolizing the photoshopped version of ourselves. So I think I definitely face that. I think I always look at people because naturally your eyes, we got to remember we're conceived in sin. So our natural tendency to want what others have or have jealousy or have this anguish of, man, like, I really want that. How come God is blessing their life? And then we start to question. I want to get a little bit biblical because
please.
Ironically, today I did a sermon on my podcast, which was talking about getting rid of festering thoughts. And if you look in the book of Genesis, chapter 3, the way that sin was dispensed into the world is crazy. A lot of us think it was an action, but it was first a thought. And I'll explain in a second. But Satan came, talked to Eve, convinced Eve that she should eat from the fruit. And she replied saying, no, God told me and Adam not to. But he began to say, here's the benefits of it. Here's the benefits of eating the fruit. And she had a conversation long enough to be convinced. So what happened was she did the enemy's dirty work. She became puppeteered by the enemy, grabbed the fruit. It doesn't say that he helped her chew it or he helped her digest it. All he did was planted a thought. And you see, social media gives the enemy the opportunity to plant thoughts in us that if we continue to let them fester, it starts becoming a stronghold in our life. So the question isn't whether Jesus is present on social media, because he definitely is. The question would really be, how do I do social media the right way? But I definitely face that. That is a very, very tough thing.
And I'm sure many people might think you don't even face that, right? They might think that because you have a podcast.
Because you see a title and you start, and social media that creates this idea that we're like, no, I'm no Moses, I see some things I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And you want that. And sometimes it's unintentional. You just want the best for your lilife, right? And someone else is living a version of what you think you want until you get it. And you're like, oh, never mind, take this back.
Brandon, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you a question. What do we do, or if you can give us some tips, if we find ourselves with our phones scrolling, what do we do to find a right balance? Because sometimes it's a lot easier to spend more time here than reading the word or spending time with God one-on-one. So how can we just, because I struggle with that. I struggle. I even put a timer. on my Instagram page, 20 minutes. And every single day it's like 20 minutes, it's up. and then I still push. You know what I mean? So how can you give us some tips to
So it's funny. A
improve
lot of
that?
people think that a lot of people don't face that, and we all do, right? We all do, and I could prove it
Yeah.
to you. You can go on Netflix, right? And if you've ever been on Netflix, what does it say after watching for a while? It says, "Are you still watching?"
Are you
Like it
still
tries
watching?
your life.
Oh,
It's like, "Are you
yes.
still watching?" And you're like, "Oh yeah," and you
Next
click play.
episode.
Next episode, what are you talking about? I need to see Teresa die. But
Sorry.
but when you get down on your knees, right? You're like, I want to get closer to God. And you get down on your knees. In 10 minutes, you're already yawning. Have you noticed that? Like everyone who in 10 minutes of reading, you're already like, woo, starting to feel it. But what happened? You can watch Netflix for 2
The
hours.
Holy Spirit.
Girl, right?
Yeah.
But it's crazy. I love God so much because he acknowledges our weakness when he says that the Spirit of God is willing, but the flesh is weak. So he recognizes that we're going to go through this. You're weak. Your flesh is naturally weak, but the Spirit is willing. That's why that's why you put the timer. Even though you didn't listen to it, even though you kind of fell short, you put the timer because the Spirit's willing, but you failed the timer because the flesh is weak.
Flesh.
Yeah.
So I think the way to do this is two things. It's purposeful engagement and purposeful disengagement. So when you're on social media, make sure that we're on it with a purpose. In reality, our entire life has one objective, and it's to point to Jesus. Whether people like it or not, we have this idea that it's all about us or building our own empire or the hustle, the grind. But our whole life is to point to Jesus. Right. So when we're on social media, it should be for purposeful and engagement. But just like Jesus would separate himself to the crowd, or he would separate himself to pray prior to his crucifixion, we have to have a healthy disengagement daily and say, okay, what the time I would have spent on social media, let me do something that's God-driven so that I can feed my spirit, so that I can fill myself up with the things that come from heaven, so I can withstand the things that come from hell. And I think that's kind of where we see it. And I would say the last step is one thing that you said, you recognize your weakness, right? If you're unable to recognize your weakness in social media, you can't rebuke it. And that's a big thing. So we can recognize, like, man, when I'm on social media, things will pop up that is inappropriate, and one click leads to another, and then one click leads to sin. And that's how he trickles down into us. Or every time I'm on social media, I feel worse about myself because I'm looking at my friend Jerry, or I'm looking at my friend Samantha, and I'm seeing what God is doing in their life. So when that starts to fester, that's when you say, oh, time to disengage, because what's happening here isn't glorifying God.
I think I wanted to ask you that because we live by, we have habits, right? And early on, when I was listening to your episode, you were talking about, as you mentioned just
that
earlier,
episode you mentioned, we just watched it actually today.
The more that you think about something, the easier it's gonna consume you. The more that you do repetition, and so there's a point where it's really hard to get detached from that. So that's one of the things that I wanted to ask you. Now, if we are in that phase where we can detach, it's so hard to detach, what do we do?
Awesome. I love that question. You guys are getting real deep. This is good.
It's real deep here. It's Echo's podcast. I'm just kidding.
I love it. That's right. Amen. So I found in my life, I've gone through hardships, and I've gone through a lot of things in private that seemed so much stronger than me, and they were, right? We all have our Davids, our Goliaths, our lion's den. We all face a circumstance or a giant. And it's called a stronghold for a reason. It has that strong grip. And in reality, if you could have just broke it, you would have just broke it. I found that when I was reading Paul, when he was writing the letters to the churches, he said, I found the secret in being content. And he went through everything, through imprisonment, through persecution, through the whole 9 yards, through things that we couldn't imagine. He said, I found the secret in being content. And I believe his secret was understanding what was already completed, understanding what God has already done in our life to help give us the strength. And as I began to study these things in my life to try to break strongholds like this, when they get so deep, it's hard. And I found out that if you celebrate progress, you'll start reaching your purpose. A lot of us want to already be free. And the very next day when we fall trapped to it and we're like, oh, I didn't make it, we find ourselves in a ground where the enemy starts putting doubt in us and saying, you see, you can't break that. You see, that is too big. You see, what's the point of trying? And he starts embedding that into you. And then you remain the same and you remain in the state of paralysis. You can't move because your mind is not renewed. But if you are a man and woman of God that says, I'm going to celebrate progress, this may be one step, maybe it was 10 minutes less, but you know what? I'm not where I was yesterday. And you start growing this habit of celebrating and throwing confetti every time you progress. The enemy gets fearful because he says, oh man, he's understanding that every step counts, that God expects you to fall short of the glory, but that doesn't give you an excuse to stop moving. So he says, lower it 10 minutes, lower it 7 minutes, lower it 5 minutes. Whatever is progress for you is progress, but he won't let you try to celebrate that because then you'll be far from your purpose to begin with.
Wow, that's amazing. It's kind of like when you're in a diet, right? Okay, I'm not going to eat Cheetos. I'm not going to eat tortillas, arepas. I'm just going to
tell me about it.
You know, so all these stuff, right? And then you start seeing, okay, I lost the water weight. Now I'm going to lose fat. Now I'm going to lose inches or etc. Right? So I'm assuming that that's a perfect example. I love that.
It's a discipline. Yeah, it's 100%. It's a discipline.
It's a discipline. And consistency. You know, I used to try social media fasting back then, and it was very helpful. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but
for sure, definitely,
social media fasting it helps a lot. And we've done challenges, right, of social media fasting, and it's been a long time. We haven't done one.
It's been a while,
but it's really good because you realize that when you step away from social media, at least if it's for like 3 days in a row or a week, and then you start doing more progressing, you feel like this weight off. You even have more time to, whether if it's read or talk to the person that you love, having more quality time, going out for a run, or even when you're on the gym, like you're not on social media. And it just gives you like this refreshment of like when you detox your body. You know how there's that 3-day juice cleanse?
Yeah.
It's like that, right? It just cleanses your mind. You feel more in peace. And I'm sure progress is a great way to go. I agree. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, before we conclude, I want to ask you, what's your prayer right now? What's something to look forward to in your life? Us, we admire your work, your life, your lifestyle. So we want to ask you, what's your prayer? What are you looking forward this season?
In my life.
Yeah.
What am I looking for in my life?
That's right.
Did he freeze?
Did we freeze?
Yeah, I think he froze.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
There it goes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So I missed that part. So are you asking the prayer over my life?
Moving on. We're almost in the end the conversation, but I wanted to personally ask you, what is your prayer?
Your biggest prayer. One prayer that you have. It's usually something we ask everyone.
Well,
almost everyone. Yeah.
No pressure, but I'll be as transparent because a lot of people don't know this, but it's full-time ministry for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
I definitely put a timeline in law enforcement, and that's something that I pray that we as a family would be able to do one day is full-time
ministry. I'm sure Nicole's going to be the worship
leader.
I was planning on being the worship leader, but now that you said no, I can't sing.
Okay.
She sings really good. I love how she sings. She sings really beautiful.
David, you want to throw one final question? We have Brandon Martinez.
I know, right? We've been waiting for this moment. My goodness.
Yeah. We're going to do part 2, part 3, part 4.
4, 5 until we go to Florida and you guys come to LA.
Let's go.
Yeah. I would ask, how do you manage to be, we ask this already? How do you manage being a husband, a dad, and a wife? Did we ask this yet?
No. That was,
I think we did it in our intro, but
early on,
not. Yeah. How do you manage to being a husband, a police officer, a wife, and a dad?
Yeah, for those who are really interested in your, in your personal journey.
Well, I'm still working on being a wife, but besides that, I think every season that God allows us to enter, He gives us the strength to do so. The prime example would be becoming a father. I was scared out of my mind. I mean, I was excited for the thought, but nervous for the process, and didn't think that we would have it in us. But a lot of times It's when we go through things that God shows us, oh, we're able because he's able. So when people ask me that about time, I feel like it's always the totality of the circumstances, depending on the individual. Like everybody has their own way and their own dynamic and their own relationship with God. And I just feel like since he's placed me here, he's given me the wisdom to steward the time that I do have. And if we honor him with every second that we have, whether it's doing this or doing this, whether I have to read this week at work or I have to spend time with the family, that we just learn as we grow and we find that balance little by little. I'm still learning how to do all this and make sure that everybody has enough of my time as a father, as a husband, as a pastor,
as a son,
and as a son, and not lower myself in any aspect. But that's with time. And I think that's okay to just grow as you go,
Yeah. And I admire both of you, because I'm sure being a full-time mom and being a wife, Nicole, I'm sure that's not easy. And many people might think it's an easy job and that anyone can do it. But I've seen my sister over here struggling. She's young. She has 2 daughters and she's a wife, and she does a lot too. And it doesn't seem like an easy job. I have 3 weeks being a wife and I don't even have a daughter yet. And I feel like it's kind of hard too, but not even being a mom. It
really is a lot. But you know what, man? God is close to those who seek him. God is close to those who are weak. God is close to those who are broken. It's just one of those things. Like it is a lot of work, to do things the way exactly to keep even with your marriage. A lot of people would think marriage is easy, or I don't know why, but even you guys want God in the center, right? You guys want a godly relationship, and that takes a lot of work.
We wouldn't be here if it wouldn't be because of God. We've said it. We would not be together right now. It was all God who brought us together.
Yep.
In reality. Yeah.
Thank you, Brandon.
Moving.
Thank you so much, man, for doing this. I really appreciate it. And for those who want to know, to get to know you a little bit more, when it's the next episode of the PV show?
They come sporadically, but what I'm going to ask for your podcast listeners is to request for me to come back, because I want to talk to Santi and Stephanie again.
Oh my gosh, yes. Please, definitely. We would love to have you again.
Thank you,
and Nicole too as well. And what's her name? Adele, right?
Adela.
Adela. Yeah. Oh, one fun fact. We want to know this. We know Nicole speaks Spanish, but do you speak Spanish?
Ooh, great question.
On the spot.
Wow. So I am very un-Puerto Rican because
really?
I can understand 100%.
Yeah.
But I can speak about 42%, specifically 42%.
No way.
Believe it or not. Yep.
That's insane. Okay. I thought you spoke Spanish.
I think she was asking you this because we're gonna start English podcast in
Spanish too.
So
we're doing
we
both.
better have you in Spanish too.
There you go. I will share 42% of the Spanish I know.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for making this happen. We love you, man, and we continue to pray that you can, keep inspiring us.
You guys will definitely come back. Yes, continue doing great. I don't think you guys realize the impact you guys are making.
Yeah.
Believe me, you guys are making a huge impact. More than what you think. So continue doing what you're doing. You guys inspire us a lot in our walk with God. And I feel like it kind of reshapes us,
Beautiful.
So we love that. Don't log off because we want to talk to you for 2 more minutes.
Got it.
Okay. So thank you guys for watching.
And we'll see you next
time.
We'll
be back with Brandon and Nicole again soon. So we'll see you guys soon. God bless you guys.
Bye.
We are so thankful to have you today and for letting us be part of your journey. Make sure to share with someone who needs to hear this.
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, searching English Podcast.
See you next week. Friends, don't forget to like and subscribe to continue sharing this mission together. See you next time.